I want to talk about your book again, and your the translation of Gita is an unprecedented one because it frees the translation, and you've mentioned this, of colonial words and interpretations that sort of fail to encapsulate, the original essence, if I can call it that, of the Gita. Can you tell us why this is important? Why a translation like this is important?
Yes, that's an important question, Kamal, because the world is, you might say, waking up to this period of colonization that I spoke about and
Right.
is in recovery in varying degrees.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that all the chaos that was caused by it has gone away.
Right.
So, for a large and sophisticated culture like Bharat, that recovery is complicated by many things. First of all, by the incursion of Islam into the country, because Christianity, I just was reading an article, a friend of mine posted that the Christian church is spending hundreds of billions of dollars right now to finish the job of converting India to Christianity. That's just their budget for India. So to think that this is over or that it's not going on in an aggressive way is to misunderstand.
I think according to one statistic, the budget of the church in India is as high as the Navy, the Indian Navy. So one can imagine.
That's right. And just as determined, if not more so, because after all, intrinsically the Vedic civilization is not colonial. So it's even hard for them to think that way. And this is very importantly related to your question, because what happened in the process of being colonized? And because something that happens for 300 years, 400 years, doesn't just stop right away.
Yes.
The culture of Bharat is used to holding life together in emergency ways,
Yes.
not ways natural to how it would have been if it wasn't under the attack of Islam or under the attack of Christian civilization. But both of those continue as aggressively, more covertly, but just as aggressively as ever. So this is a very important thing to know, that those two religions have a political agenda. And we cannot say this of the Judaic culture. It is not a world conquering culture. So Jews have been best friends with India and remain so, because they don't have the same colonial agenda, right?
Right.
But they sent a convocation of rabbis to India recently that said, we want to thank you because you've always given us shelter, always treated us well. And of course, Bharat would say the same thing back. Well, you've treated us well too.
Yes.
You haven't tried to colonize us and take us over. But it can also be said that the worst possible behavior has come from Islam and Christianity. Violent, destructive, despicable, underhanded, all in the name of something supposedly noble.
Yes.
But in Bharat, we don't agree with that. We say, look, if it's noble, then you would behave nobly while you were introducing it.
Right.
You wouldn't behave like such an aggressor and so violently and despicably. So we have to be candid about these things these days. Now, this doesn't mean that all Muslims and all Christians hold those attitudes. We all know that's not true. Many of them are just people and they have sincere interest in their religion. So weaponized religion is very different than everyday religion for people who are just humble and regular people.
Yes.
They wouldn't go do those things. They don't daily behave in a violent way with their religion. So we don't want to speak despicably of those religions in their essence.
Right.
So I call Christianity and Islamanity a form of insanity. It's something that never exists with Bharat, and that's teaching your truth by violence
Yes.
and coercion. But it is very important that we recognize that this is one of the things that is undermining the culture. So now back to the Gita or to any Vedic translation.
Mm.
when you go to do the translation, if it was a few hundred years back, in every place possible, colonizing words from Christianity would be used as translations for Vedic Sanskrit terms. Right?
Right.
So let's do a simple one. Why use Bhagavan instead of God?
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Why not just say, after all, God's easier to say for most people. So why don't we just call Bhagavan God and be done with it and translate Bhagavan God? And the other 10 or 12 names of Krishna, we'll just call them God, all of them, and make it simple. We'll dumb it down. Well, that's what it is, first of all. It's dumbing it down. Secondly, you need to ask, so what does the word God actually mean? Literal meaning, not my meaning that I make up in my head. And what does the word Bhagavan mean? Now, interestingly enough, if you ask most Vedic practitioners on the street what Bhagavan means, they'll tell you God.
Yes.
Or they might say supreme being or something like that. But let's ask first what the word God means. Well, God came into English from German. And German is based in Sanskrit, not Latin. Most people don't know that. So that means Italian and Spanish and Portuguese came from Latin. So they're called Latin languages. But German and Russian and many others came from Sanskrit. Well, we haven't been told this, but that's why Hitler used Sanskrit terms to describe his politics in World War II. When he said we're Aryans and we have the swastika and all that. He used all those words incorrectly. He just stole them and misused them. Right? So anyone in India was ashamed.
Yes.
That those beautiful words were being used in a terrible way.
Yeah.
So just think of the war that's going on as taking place with words. Okay. So the word God from German was Gutam.
Okay.
It went to Dutch as Gut, G-U-T, to English as God, G-O-D.
Okay.
But the Sanskrit word it came from is Hutam. H-U-T-A-M. Brahmarpanam, Brahma Agnau, Brahma Hutam, Samadhina. This is from the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita.
Right.
And it's the Agnihotra Yagya that's being described.
Okay.
And when you place the offering into Agni's mouth in the fire, the smoke that comes up is called Hutam.
Okay.
So now that means that the Christian word for the Supreme Being was taken from something they say they hate, which is the pagan fire sacrifice to the supposed many gods, which is a complete misunderstanding of the Yagya. But that never stopped them before. So that word Hutam, which is one small Sanskrit word connected to Bhagavan, and the smoke going up from the offering as a thank you to the Devas. That's why the Yagya says thank you for all these gifts you've given us. Here's our thank you back to you. So we put some food in the fire and say, before I take this, thank you for all these wonderful gifts. Right? And one of the words we say is Hutam. So Christianity took that word without even knowing what it meant from the German and the Dutch. And now it's their one almighty word for the Supreme Being. It's the only word they have. So it's illiterate. It's illiterate because you only have one word.
Yeah.
It's illiterate because it's Sanskrit and they don't even know. Holy smokes.
Very fascinating.
This is crazy. So let's ask now, what does Bhagavan mean? So we see the contrast between what Bhagavan is supposed to mean to us. And is that the same as Hutam?
Hmm.
So Bhagavan is two joined meaningful phrases. There are 6 bhagas, and I won't go into all the Sanskrit and everything, but basically they are roughly translated, not exactly. Beauty, wealth, strength, fame, knowledge, and generosity, or the ability to give up things that are not necessary. Sometimes called, not quite accurately, but renunciation, or being going without material luxury. So one who has those 6 qualities, van, one who possesses them to an unlimited degree, has the 6 bhagas to the ultimate amount. That being is the source of everything and is the supreme person, being, individual, reality, and so on.
Right.
So we, who know better, have allowed that rich, deep word to be replaced by an illiterate, misconstrued Sanskrit word, stolen along with everything else by Christianity, made into their one name, so they're very illiterate, for the ultimate supreme being. And now that has replaced Bhagavan in all the Sanskrit translations,
Yeah.
including the Gita. So there are 20 words like that I took out of the Bhagavad Gita: sin, many gods, and so on,
Yeah.
religion, all these words that are just Christian. I'll tell you a good one, the word to pray.
Okay.
So it comes from the word precarious. Precarious is when you're about to fall off a cliff and you're very fearful and you're afraid that something's going to happen and you're just all upset and you start calling out, oh, help, 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 help. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
That's praying.
Okay. Wow.
Now, is that the same as chanting japa?
Not at all.
Not at all. Do you feel terrified? Oh, don't hurt me. Oh, mean God, don't punish me. Is that the way we Vedics think when we're doing japa?
Absolutely not.
Not at all. We're going, Ram, 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 Shri Ram, Jai Ram. Hare Krishna, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's like we're eating this sweet and it's beautiful and delicious and it's reminding us who we are, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So should we say we're praying to Bhagavan?
No, absolutely not.
Never.
There's a secret.
No. And praying to God, even worse. Because now we replaced all of our words. I'm not doing mantras and shlokas and I'm not having a conversation and I'm not calm and happy and satisfied and joyful. And I'm not asking for anything.
No.
I'm not saying, give me, give me, give me, give me. I'm saying as a yogi, how can I serve you? How can I serve you? How can I serve you? Thank you for everything. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everything. So those are just a couple examples of words that have been poisoning the understanding of the Gita.
Yes.
And until the Bhagavad Gita comes alive, no one has ever removed those words from the text since colonization began. So I'm an English major, I'm a lit major and a poet. So I'm just using that in Bhagavan's service and the service of the Vedic Dharma. So the next thing is, because a lot of the English words are confusing or don't have a clear meaning, I'll give you a good example. Tell me what the word spiritual means. You're smart. Tell me. The exact meaning. Exact meaning.
At least in everyday life, I think it's used as a substitute for maybe self-discovery or just something where you're asking questions about existence, asking questions about yourself. At least in the
But your language was like this. You were going, it's kind of this, kind of this, kind of this, kind of this. You didn't give me a specific definition. Can you try?
I think I mean, the word itself has the word spirit, so it has something to do with that, I believe.
It's actually spiritus is the word that you're thinking of. And spiritus means to breathe.
Oh, okay.
So the word spiritual simply means you're breathing.
Oh, okay.
So when somebody tells me they're spiritual, I say, well, I'm glad you're breathing.
Yeah.
But you haven't told me anything.
Yeah.
That's why the word is inspire and expire. Inspiration is when you breathe in. Expiration is when you breathe out.
Right.
Your last breath is when your body expires. It just means air. So you could say it's when you're blowing hot air at someone. That's spiritual. You don't tell them what you really are. It's just a pretend word. In English, it has no meaning.
Yeah.
Not the way it's used is I'm not religious. I don't follow a religion. I'm spiritual.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So it's a negative. It's not a positive.
Yes.
It's used positively to say, I'm, spiritual.
Yeah.
But no, we don't know. We're just nodding and pretending because we don't know either.
Yeah.
And that's how English works.
Hmm.
The poet Coleridge said, when you use a word in English, if you don't get a picture, you've used the word wrong.
Hmm. Yes.
So what's the picture with spiritual? A bunch of hippies going, hey, I'm spiritual. Okay. Or somebody saying that's the alternative to religion.
Yeah.
So all of these meaningless English words are used to translate the very meaningful, precise Sanskrit.
Okay.
So first I took all of those problem words out. And then I left about 100 Sanskrit words in the text. There's no substitute for dharma, no substitute for karma, no substitute for atma. Here's a good one. Does soul and atma mean the same thing?
I would believe not. I think after.
Because soul is S-O-L, it's Latin. It means a little sun.
Oh, okay.
So it's not the same.
Right.
Because the sun eventually burns out.
Okay.
Someday the sun is a planet, material planet. So someday it'll burn out. It's true, it gives light. So in that regard, it's a comparison. So in our body, the Atma acts like a little sun. So it's got a little meaning. But what does Atma mean? Well, Atma gave us the word atomic because it meant originally atome in Latin. You can't cut it, you can't burn it, you can't destroy it, you can't change it. That was the idea of atom, but then we cut the atom, we split it. So then it wasn't the atom anymore. So Atma means dehinosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantaras praptir diras tatra namuyate. You can't cut it, burn it. It's like changing clothes. The Atma doesn't change. The Atma is forever. The Atma is, and then there's a whole series of terms for what the Atma is. Sat, Chit, Ananda, Vigraha. It's a facet of Bhagavan. It's part of Brahman. But soul doesn't have any of that.
Yeah.
So soul is another dead-end street. And therefore you cannot substitute it for Atma, because Atma has all of these different levels of meaning. And you've heard of Adam and Eve, right? In the Christian Old Testament, Judaic text.
Yes.
So what do we call the Atma when it gets into the material world? Jiva Atma.
Okay.
So Eve is Jiva and Adam is Atma. So Adam and Eve is Jiva Atma.
Okay.
That's where it came from. In the Abrahamic religion, so Abraham and what was his wife? Sarah.
Oh, yes.
And so who's the creative couple? Brahma and Saraswati.
Okay. Wow.
So Hebrew comes from Sanskrit. So Abrahamic is actually Brahma. It's Brahma, against Brahman, or it's a mispronunciation of Brahman. And Sarah is Saraswati. And the creative couple in the Vedic tradition is Brahma and Saraswati. Bach. So this linguistic mess is what we have been calling a translation.
Yeah.
Because we have been colonized. Bharat has been colonized. So I removed all those, straightened out the mess, left 100 Sanskrit words in the text so that they were the most important ones that conveyed. There's no translation in English for those words. There's no equivalent word.
Yeah.
Translation means to carry across, so you can get part of their meaning, but there's no word that's a synonym. Okay? For the important Sanskrit words. None for karma, none for dharma, none for atma, so on. So all of those words, I have a glossary with about 100 to 150 word definition of those words. It's the first time a Gita has had a lengthy glossary, because everybody was thinking word for word translation. So they thought there was an English word that substitutes for the Sanskrit word.
Yeah.
There's not. So take out all the incorrect Christian terminology, then leave in 100 Sanskrit words, then make the definitions with precise English so that it doesn't create more misunderstanding.
Yes.
And now that's the cleanest translation of the Gita that has ever been done, and that's radical.
Absolutely.
So Gita comes alive, and there's no purport. So this is the last part. Because in the conversation, Krishna didn't explain himself. Nobody explained him between verses. But if you do, then the book is 3 inches thick or 4 inches thick, and it's filled with so much knowledge, you can't read the conversation.
Yeah.
So in this Gita, it's just the conversation.
Yeah.
It's just you, Arjun, and Bhagavan. Clear English, Sanskrit words left in place that are necessary, no Christian terminology. It's a decolonized, clear, precise, and mixed with Sanskrit meaning Bhagavad Gita.
Absolutely, Ishiji. I think it's amazing. I mean, the kind of insights you've shared with us, and I'm sure our viewers are really inspired by that. At least I am, and I would really look forward to reading that and understanding it in there. And I think I understand the title much better now, and the reason why it has to be called Gita Comes Alive. Thank you for sharing that.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Chitti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.